Keep politics out of your relationships. I just had a young brother come up to me the other day. He's in an interracial relationship. His girlfriend is white, comes from a pretty wealthy background, and he saw a shooting of a black man just the other day. This made him very upset and emotional. But his response was, this is why I'm not voting Democrat, right? His girlfriend, staunch Democrat, hardcore Democrat. Her response was, well, you better vote Democrat because they're the only ones that are going to keep abortion around. Number one, that's a fallacy. Abortion is not going anywhere. It might get restrictive in some states and more conservative places, but it ain't going nowhere. Let's put it like this. Why did their relationship get entangled with a conversation on politics? My man said they never had a conversation about race before. My response was, it was pretty easy to get along with people back in the Obama days, right? Because everybody was just pretending like everything was done. We resolved race relations. So it was pretty easy to keep on moving and pretend like everything was good. Now, in this critical, crucial time, they need to have a very pivotal discussion that they've never had before. And the way that it arises is through the political spectrum. Man, was this asking for trouble. I'll tell you one thing. Politics has its place. You can talk about politics within your relationship. But when it comes to your relationship, don't talk about politics. If they needed to resolve some issue and it comes to what does our future hold? What about our kids? I'm concerned about our children's safety and how we're going to raise them. If this is your response to this, this is startling. This is unsettling to me. That was his basic feeling. But the problem there is to make your partner the bad guy based upon some stereotype or some straw man that a political party or some think tank in Washington has come up with. Don't do that to your partner. You're pinning them against the wall. You're putting them in a box. And it's not fair because your partner is not responsible for all the world's ills, all the world's problems. Your partner is not responsible for fixing racism. And their response might have offended you, but they might not be aware of how their response offended you. My piece of advice to this gentleman was to take his emotional conversation and have an emotional conversation. Don't have a political conversation when you're trying to get your emotions and your feelings out about a certain topic, especially with your partner. If your partner's supposed to be there for you, this is the place where you can have that intimate conversation. Another thing that I see people doing is taking politics and using it as a way to judge or measure the morality of their relationships, of the people that they know, of their friendships. This is not fair. It's not fair to judge somebody based upon something they may not well have researched or know about or understand. For example, if we're talking about economics or taxes, or talking about tax the rich, eat the rich, people might just be saying that because it's a clever slogan. Think tanks spend hundreds of millions of dollars coming up with clever slogans, catchy one-liners, and hashtags to draw in as big of an audience as they can. Just because somebody's been drawn in by a clever hashtag or a one-line phrase doesn't mean they understand the full ramifications of what's going on there. So if you want to have a political discussion, have that discussion. But don't judge all your relationships based upon how people respond to politics. We also need to leave room for people to disagree with us when it comes to politics. Somebody doesn't have to share my entire opinion about politics. But if we can't talk about it, if we can't have an honest, earnest, candid conversation about our viewpoints with intellect, with understanding, with education, then we can't probably be friends. Because what that comes down to is giving the other person the room and the platform to speak. If someone's not going to allow you to do that simply because of the subject matter that you bring up, odds are they're probably not a good friend. I bring this back to the point about relationships. In your relationships, you cannot judge somebody that you're with based upon the stereotypes or the straw men that have been created by think tanks in Washington or overseas or God knows where else, because they spend millions of dollars doing it. If your boyfriend is a white male, don't look at him like he's the ultimate rapist or the ultimate racist because he says an off-the-cuff comment. Do your best to try to tell that person how that made you feel. and leave politics out of it. Don't say, well, 75% of rapes happen because of this, or 95% of rapes happen because of that, or most racist people don't know that they're racist. I've heard that on NPR. That's not a good way to have a conversation, and that's definitely not a way to have a conversation with the person that's supposed to be your significant other. Let's take the politics out of relationships and let's make relationships great again. We can do this if we start to connect and reconnect on a human level, an individual level, because we all have our problems. We all have our histories, our backgrounds, and our opinions and our biases. Just because someone doesn't respond the way you expected them to some racially charged event or situation or topic, doesn't make that person a racist. It just means that they don't have the same perspective as you do. So if you're in a relationship and now you expect your partner to solve the systemic racism through their actions, first of all, you're asking them to do something that's impossible. One person cannot solve systemic issues by responding to your emotions a certain way. That's just them responding to your emotions a certain way. So if you want them to respond to your emotions a certain way, you have to tell them. If you tell them and they still don't do it, that's a different situation. But just assuming that someone is going to share your opinion, your emotions, your thoughts, just because you have them, that's a tad bit narcissistic, and it's a tad bit selfish, and it's lacking awareness. Because having awareness means that you understand that you are who you are and someone is who they are. A little bit of wisdom for the day. Let's make relationships great again. Let's keep politics out of them. If we want to have a discussion with our significant other about something that's bothering us, have that discussion. Leave Nancy Pelosi at home. Leave CNN out of it. Leave Fox News out of it. And leave them out of your bedroom. Unless that turns you on or something. And call me Tucker Carlson. Oh, call me Sean Hannity. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to do. I don't know what you're into. Yeah, but, leave it alone. Let's get back on track and let's start connecting with one another as humans and individuals again. Not based upon political party, not based upon race, not based upon our skin color, not based upon our tax code or our tax bracket. Black Rant out.